8 steps that you must take in order to find your soulmate. Now, you might do others, but these are the 8 that I'm recommending are must-dos. And I also don't want you to just walk away and think that was some good information, but I want you to have some ideas about what you're going to do with the information. So after each step, I'm going to pause and ask you to identify your next best step. For those of you who don't know me, I am the founder and owner of the Outcomes Management Group, and you can see my logo there, OMG. It's hot now, but it wasn't hot when I founded my company. As you can see, that was 25 years ago. And I have been blessed to be inside of over 150 organizations all around the country and in South Africa. And I've touched over 50,000 individuals. And during that work, I was very focused on identifying what causes people and organizations to achieve extraordinary results, not just results, but instead of generating $500, somebody's generating $5,000 or $50,000. So what drove those extraordinary results? And that evolved into my B.E.S.T model, which I will introduce a little bit later in the webinar. Now, I'm all about taking that information and making sure that I bring out the best in people and organizations. And today, I'm very focused on how do I share this information so that people can indeed live their best lives now. Well, we're here talking about a soulmate, and why am I talking about this topic? Well, you'll see that last year I also had the opportunity to be here and celebrate 25 years. Yep, we made it, a quarter of a century with my soulmate, Clayton. And you'll see that there's some symbols there of us celebrating. It's a ritual that we have that you'll find out about that as well every year when our anniversary rolls around. But what I want to point out to you is that right after we got married, being an organizational consultant, I said, hey, hun, let's define our mission. What is going to be the purpose for us to stay focused on during this relationship? So we crafted our mission statement, and it hangs today in our kitchen. The bottom line, take a look, our mission that we defined 25 years ago, we said we wanted to bring out the best in ourselves and in others. Who could have imagined that that mission would turn into what we're doing today? So those 8 steps, here's how I want us to approach it today. I'm going to take my story and I'm going to share it with you. And as I share my story with you, I'm going to introduce you to some concepts and to some practical steps that you can take and embrace so that you too can find your soulmate. I am going to also ask you to identify the action that you're going to take, your next best step. So let's get started. Let's find out about my story. My story begins when I was 40 years old, and it was my birthday. And when you reach a milestone and you're celebrating your birthday, you usually start reflecting about things. And so here I was, fabulous and 40. And I was out with my girlfriends, and we were having a great time together. But I was thinking, do I really want to spend my next milestone celebrating with just my girlfriends? And as I thought about it, it was like, I love my girls, but I think I'd like to celebrate with them. And I think I would also like to have my soulmate. Well, here's what was going on for me at 40. I was a vice president of a healthcare organization. In fact, the organization that I worked for was called NovaCare. And we were the largest rehab contract organization in the country. We were in 47 states. We were in over 2,200 nursing facilities all around the country. We owned 100 orthotic and prosthetic centers. We had 12 hospitals. And I was the first Black female vice president. Oh, that was really something. I got a chance to move from being in the association management world and having taught at Howard University and having provided services in a rural place in Georgia, to sitting up in a plush place in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. And I was traveling all around the country. We had over 5,500 people that worked for us, and I was lecturing and talking to people inside the organization and outside of the organization. And you'll see that little stretch limo there. Well, you know, as an executive, we had access to car service, and I didn't have to drive if I didn't want to. I could use a limo when I wanted to. So when my family came to town, you know, I sent a limo for them. I later sent a limo for my soulmate. But I was also mentoring African Americans who were working at my company. You'll see the picture up at the top left. That's the people that were working inside the organization. And I wanted them to be successful as well. So we often got together. I hosted them over at my house, and we talked about life in the private sector. And it wasn't easy. And you'll see me there holding something that looks like a big award. Well, you know, it's my recognition from my professional association. I had become a fellow of the association, which is the highest honor that I could achieve. So life was good, but I wanted something more. There was something that was missing. I was missing my soulmate. So the first step is for you to identify your why. So why? Why do you want to find this soulmate now? Why? That's important, because when we ask ourselves why, it helps us to clarify, and it helps us to better understand whether this is really something we really want to do. And it's something that we can go back to that will help us in order to stay focused and achieve our goal. So here's my why. You'll probably recognize that some of the reasons sort of stem from me looking inside my favorite book. The first reason was I just didn't want to be alone. And my book said that it's not good for man to be alone. And when we think about in the beginning, when God created this world, he made man and he made woman to be a companion for man. And I wanted that. In fact, I wanted to be in a relationship where I experienced unconditional love. I had seen it and experienced it all my life. My parents had demonstrated unconditional love. My grandmother was always telling me her stories about how she fell in love with my grandfather. And I had friends who were experiencing unconditional love. And the 1 Corinthians, the 13th chapter, is still my favorite chapter because it's all about defining love. And it tells us that when we have unconditional love, we can believe everything. We can hope for things and we can endure things. And that is what I wanted to experience. I believed that even though I had a lot going on, and I was certainly enjoying what I had going on, that there was more. And more could be accomplished if there was two of us. In fact, in the good book, it tells us that when one falls down, the other one can pick you up. And there is good from two. And then finally, I had decided that, you know what? I'm turning this over. I'm turning this over to the head of my life, who is God, and I'm going to let him guide and direct me, but I'm going to believe that he is going to point me in the direction of my soulmate. So So that was my why. I want you to think about your why. So it's going to take a little time. I don't want you to get your why now because I want you to really be reflective and intentional in your thinking. But if somebody does, I think somebody has said, yeah, I see a comment that man is to be our protector and our provider. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else, if you want to share why are you thinking right now, just what brought you here to this webinar on finding your soulmate. Feel free to jot it in and I will look back, keep my eye on your comments. Now, the second step is the most important one to get started with too, because it's called look in the mirror. Now, sometimes we look in the mirror and we don't really like what we see. But the good thing is that when we look in the mirror and we're honest with what we see, we can do something about changing what's in the mirror. And so I took a moment to take a look at myself. I looked hard in the mirror. And the first thing that I saw, I was really sort of happy about in one way. There was this broken heart that had healed. And I say that because, I was 40, remember? So that means that I had dated many different guys around. And so, there had been some heartbreaks and I cried and, things hadn't worked out. But I also had been engaged. And I had set a date. We had started planning. My mom had hosted an engagement party. And I had shopped for a dress. And I had found this dress that was the dress. And something happened. And I decided that I needed to cancel the wedding. Now, that's another story, and we could talk about that at another time. But it was the right decision. But it was a painful decision. And it was painful for a while. I remember when we had to go to the bridal shop to pick up the dress, because when you buy a wedding dress, it's your dress, no one else can wear it. And so we had to pick this dress up, and it had the date when we picked the dress up on it. And I could just still see myself now boohooing and crying in this bridal shop, and my mother trying to tell me not to cry. But it was hurtful. And I wondered if I would ever get married. And so as I looked in the mirror, I saw that I was no longer in the pain that I had once been in, that I wasn't feeling bitter or angry anymore. And I wasn't feeling like it couldn't happen to me anymore. And that's a good thing, because when we are bitter and when we're angry and when we are thinking that we must doubt another person, we're not really open to find what might be ours. So it's important that if there's some places that our heart has not healed from, that we have to focus on that, and we have to manage that, so that when we meet our soulmate, we'll be ready to receive and give. Now, my mom used to say to me, Patricia, you say you want to be married, but you're not acting like it. And I would just brush it off, like, really, come on, what does my mother know about that? But now that I'm looking myself in the mirror and I'm listening to what she said, I realized that my behavior was really not lining up, that I was indeed not doing the things that were consistent with that. How was I going to find him sitting in my office half the night working on projects, or flying all over the place, or spending time just with my girls and not going anywhere out to really try to find anybody, or going to the wrong places looking? So I thought, I think there's some behaviors that I'm going to have to change. If I want different results, I'm going to have to do some different things. And as I looked at what I was doing, I also realized that I had fallen into this trap of thinking that, Prince Charming was going to come along and was going to rescue me. So therefore, I was waiting to be found. And when someone said hi and smiled at me and said something, I perked right up and I got right into it, right? And realized after a while, when I finally decided to focus on me and whether this person was meeting my needs, not convincing the person that I was the one for them, I would realize that this isn't the right person. And I now had wasted all this time unnecessarily. And I said, uh-oh, I think I got to change that behavior too. I can't be so quick to just jump because somebody is smiling or saying something. My husband later told me guys have lines. And that was what I was doing, falling for lines. And I realized that I needed to, change that as well. Well, this next area I am really excited to share with you because this is now about your best condition. And I looked at my condition, but I didn't have this framework when I was doing it. And now after all this time and all the work that I've done, this is what has evolved, the BEST framework. These are the 4 areas that you want to examine because these are the areas that will drive extraordinary results. These areas yield superpowers that you can leverage in order to really make sure that you find that soulmate. So let's find out what that's all about. So BEST is 4 areas, four characteristics, and each characteristic targets something and you get an outcome from it. So the first one is B, and B is about bright. And bright is about focusing on your image. And when you focus on your image, the outcome is that you're able to attract. E is about excellence. And when you focus on excellence, you have standards. And when you have standards, you grow. S is about satisfaction. It's about meeting your needs and expectations and others. And the outcome is energy. And T is about being timely. And that's focusing on meeting deadlines. And when you do that, you're able to seize opportunities. Okay, I've got something that I want to introduce you to that I want you to do. I've got a question. This comes from my BEST superpower assessment. Now, you don't have to share your answers, but if someone looked into your bedroom right this very minute, if I was in your house and I walked in your bedroom, what would I see? Would I see, some clothes thrown around, some shoes around, some things, all over the place in the bedroom? What about your bed? Would I see your bed made up, or would your bed be partly made up, or would your bed be totally made up? If I walked into your bedroom right now, would everything be in place, sparkling and shining and just ready for you to come in for the evening? What about, would I find that there might be some wrappers or some trays or plates or glasses or things that's sort of left over from, sometime that you were in your bedroom and you had a snack or you were eating? Take a moment and decide whether you're A, B, C, or D. Now, drum roll. If you were C, then get ready. You have the superpower of gravitational attraction. Now, remember, there are really 8 questions. But this one question allows me to find out about the main variable that drives attraction. And so if you hit C, then you've definitely got the superpower. Now, you may have the superpower as well if you took the full test, but at least you know that if you did see, you really got this. Now, here's why it's important. Let's look at the 8 attributes that go with this superpower. You'll see that the first one is appearance. Now, my mom used to always tell me, no matter where you go, Patricia, you got to make sure that you look your best. If you go to the grocery store, don't go out, don't have rollers in your hair, don't don't look sloppy. She was always emphasizing appearance. I didn't realize why that was so important until I sort of did this analysis of my work. So appearance is what attracts, because it would be nice if people would want to just get to know you just because they saw you, and would value what you have to offer. But it really starts with what they see. And that's going to either bring them in or they're going to just sort of walk past. So I looked into my closet and I said, let me take a look and see, what are the things that I have. And what I realized is that I was working as a vice president. So I was going to all these things. And needless to say, I already told you I wasn't really hanging out and having a lot of fun time. So I didn't have a lot of clothes that really matched going out and, doing things where I would be meeting this soulmate. And that meant I had to change that. I had to get into that. I went to, there was a store in King of Prussia called Cachet, and I went into Cachet. I became one of their best customers because I was always getting, hot items out of Cachet. I had a boutique in Washington, D.C. that I used to go to when I lived in D.C. called Ida's, and I still love her store. And she would tell you that she dressed me for my soulmate because I would always go there to get different things to wear. So how we look is really important. So our hair, our nails, our clothes, just everything about what someone is looking at. You want to think about that as you're moving about, because you never know, right, where he is. So you want to make sure you are ready to attract at the right time. Self-esteem is important. If we don't feel good about ourselves, it manifests itself in how we show up into the world. And so we want to take a look. If we have some issues in this area, we really want to work on those, because we've got to bring confidence and a strong self-esteem into the relationship. Attitude is important. Remember, positive attitudes attract. If you're negative, that's going to turn people off. So you want to look at your attitude. You want to look at whether you're looking outside of yourself, because you can't attract if you're just focused on yourself and hoping that people are going to really tune in to you. Seeking solutions. Oh my gosh. Are you always talking about what's not going well? What the problem is, how the problem never gets solved? If you're constantly into problems, that's not going to go well with the soulmate. Got to be a person that's also recognizing a problem, but focusing on a solution. Being alert. My goodness, sometimes people just miss so much because they're not paying attention. And so you want to make sure you got your eyes open and your ears open, and you're listening and you're looking and you're alert. You want to make sure that you're also creative and imaginative. So all of those are attributes that come together that are related to this attraction superpower. And remember, the first thing is that we want to be able to attract. So there's lots more to doing your best conditioning, but you got it. You want to really take a look at yourself and really get a good understanding of yourself. And the next step here is that I want you to think about, when are you going to look in the mirror? So think about, when am I going to do that? I think you should start today after the webinar. Find some time, just a few minutes while it's fresh on your mind, and start thinking about, let me take a look at myself. What are some of the things that I can identify that are good, that I could leverage? And what are some of the things that I need to make sure I change and I work on? Step 2, it's all about you, and you got to be your best. Well, step 3 is that you got to know what you're looking for. You got to create your avatar. I realized that, part of the reason I got caught up in this stuff was that I didn't know what it was that I wanted. And so I would go along, and then all of a sudden I didn't like the person, or it wasn't working out because I didn't really know what it was I wanted. So I wasted time. Now, remember, I'm sitting here at 40 and I'm going, I don't want to be 50 still trying to do this thing. So I need to get clarity. I need to be really clear about what I'm looking for. And so I did. I created my avatar, my best lifetime partner profile. Well, it's divided into some areas. And the first is called the basics. It's the top 10. And it's the basics because it's my little screening tool. So it means that when I go out and I'm about, I can screen and I can see whether people are actually meeting these top 10. And if they're not, I can just, move on. I can still chit chat, but at least I know they're not in my soulmate category. And you have to be honest about what your top 10 are. And there should be things that you can actually look at. For example, one thing for me, is age. I had dated some men that were younger than me and some men that were older than me. And I was able to decide when it was too young and when it was too old so that I could put an age cap, that I could say, hey, they're going to have to be no more than 10 years older than me. And they're going to be no less than 5 years from me. It could be different from you. But the main thing is you want to think about it. I thought about the fact, now this is going to sound, I'm going to be transparent because, we have idiosyncrasies, things that are just unique to us. And for somebody else, it's not a big deal. So this is one of my idiosyncrasies. I had dated guys that were shorter than me. And, people will tell you, hey, great guy. And that would be really foolish, right? To pass up someone just because you didn't like their height. But it was important to me. And so for me, it was, I really would like to have someone that's a little bit taller than me, at least 5'8", 5'9". I was a 5'7", So you see my picture there. There's my hubby. That's my soulmate. And, he turns out to be 6'3". So, I was like, whoa, look at there. This is really him when I first met him because we were at an event and you'll see it was a black tie event and he's got his, tux on, he's got his Afrocentric, cummerbund and bow tie and so forth. So, he was really getting points and he wasn't really even trying to get them. He's got a badge on and the badge says that he's with the National Optometric Association. So it gave me a clue that he was into a particular profession. And so that's what you want to do. You want to screen, you want to find out, does this person have potential? Then I organized my avatar into 4 key areas. The first area is called core because this is sort of the core of the relationship. And so it's about mind, it's about body, it's about spirit. And I have questions that help you to explore into those areas. If you're going to be together for a long time, it's about having a good relationship. And so what fosters a good relationship? Personality, people's favorites, I found out, could get in the way of relationships. And so I have some questions that go around that. I love the Myers-Briggs. That's a story for another day, but it's my favorite personality preference test. Romance. We want to have romance. And so what are some of the love attributes of this person? What kind of activities do they engage in? How do they communicate? And then can we have a future? And a future is based upon whether this person has an achievement focus and what that is, what their financial status is, whether they're involved in their community, etc. So it's lots that goes into this avatar. So it's not just a few things. We want to really make sure that we have a clear picture of who it is that we really can do life together with. So your next step will be to identify your top 10 so that you can have your little screening tool ready so that you're not wasting your time on people that, are not going to be the one for you. Let's go to our next step, and that's to make sure you have the right people in your front row. Oh, well, look at that picture. I mean, you don't want the people in the, in the end that are not paying attention and looking at something else and all off. They're not supporting you. They don't really care about you. They're all into themselves. You want to watch negativity. You don't want people around you that are going to tell you, oh, girl, it's not going to work out. Or, oh, you just need to move on. You want people that are cheering for you and supporting you and being honest with you. And then you want people that are praying for you. So you want to make sure that the right people are there with you. So let's take a look at my right people. So up in the corner, those are my girls. Remember I said, I was out. Well, those are the girls who are out with. Audrey, are you on? If you're on, I'd love for you to type in yes. Audrey's in Philadelphia, and we were college roommates at Hampton, and we stayed connected. But then when I took my job in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, I was there right there near Audrey. So she and I got to spend lots of time together. Two of my friends that are on this picture are no longer with me, but I'm sure they're smiling at this conversation. And also Sandy, who's in Pennsylvania. So prayer warriors, sisters, good girlfriends, those were my friends that were right there. If you look at the bottom, you'll see there's another person, another girlfriend, Kathy, if you're on, if you could just type in, I'm here. She said, yes, she's here. She's just been by my side. This almost makes me want to, sort of choke up a little bit. Kathy's just been there all the time. And I introduced Kathy to her husband, John. And they were my role model. I mean, when I said friends that were models, they were it. They got married after we left Michigan State. And she has two beautiful children, a boy and a girl. She had a little dog. They had a home. It was just, they were just it. They were my role model. And John is a little bit like Clayton, or Clayton's a little bit like John. So Kathy has always been able to be a good girlfriend to help me navigate, and also pull me in and pull my coattail when I was, off on the wrong track. So girlfriends are important. But the right ones. I also had friends that I had to remove, and it means you don't stop being friends, but they just aren't on your front row. You just move them back because you don't want them in your ear. You don't want that negativity preventing you from moving forward. At the bottom, you'll see there's a letter. It has the name on it. It has the professor from Memphis, where I got my doctorate. He was my mentor at Michigan State, and when the time that I told you that I had to cancel my wedding, he wrote me a letter. And when I was pulling things together for this webinar, I pulled it out. And I wanted to just take a picture of that, because here was someone who was a professor who really cared about me enough to handwrite a note to me and to tell me that it was the first time he had written me and probably the last time. And that was true. But what he wanted me to remember was he didn't want me to get scarred from that relationship that didn't work. He wanted me to still stay focused and contribute professionally. And he reminded me, you'll find him. You're in and out of love enough that I know you'll find him. And I did, and I stayed hopeful. And then, of course, my number one person on the front row that was always guiding me, offering me wisdom, praying for me, cheering me on. And that is my mother, and that's Herline. And you'll get to hear more about Herline at another time. But that was my front row, and a few others. So you want to make sure that you decide who's in your front row. Who are you going to keep? Who are you going to let go, move them back a little bit? And you might decide that there's somebody around you need to identify and bring them into your front row, because your front row is going to be important to helping you get your soulmate. Well, let's take a look at the next step, which is developing your plan. I have another virtual mentor called Brendan Bouchard, and he says you don't go into the forest without a map. So we can't go out and not have a plan. We don't want to just wander aimlessly around. We want to really make sure we have a plan. Our plan needs to have 4 parts. And needless to say, the first part starts with you. What am I going to do? What am I going to do to focus on me? The second part is to focus on how am I going to find my soulmate? That's really critical. I had to say, here I am. I'm in this company, right? There weren't any other African American males that I was going to find at NovaCare. So where was I going to find him? And so are there networks that you belong to? Are there people that you can tell? Are there events that you need to go to? So there's a whole bunch there. We're not going to get into it, but how to find them is important. You need to get your place soulmate friendly. So I'm going to say that you got to take a look around your house, so wherever it is you're staying, and you want to see, does this look like a place that I could bring somebody into? Because if I bump into him, I need to invite him over, and I need to make sure that my place is soulmate friendly. So we want to do some work there. And then, of course, we've got to take care of ourselves. So we have to make sure we're in balance, because if we're out of balance, we're not going to be able to really find our soulmate or be able to give to the relationship what we need to as we're trying to get acquainted. So we want to have some self-care routines to make sure we're nourishing our mind, body, and spirit. So that's step 5. So you want to set aside some time, concentrated time, so that you can really create your plan. Well, step 6 is simple. It sounds simple, right? It's just called do it. It's the Nike, it's take action now. Stop talking about it. Stop procrastinating. When you get off this webinar, do something, at some point today. Don't say I'll wait till tomorrow. It's called now. And then I want you probably, if you signed up and you're on the Best Life community, then there's a webinar I want you to listen to that's called 5 Strategies to Eliminate Distractions. You got to listen to that, because you will easily be distracted, which will delay you from doing the things that you need to do. So step 6, act now. Let's take a look at the 7th step. I told you about, your next step, I already mentioned that about the webinar. The 7th step is you got to be accountable. Oh my, this is important, because we do things, and if we don't set up some way to make sure that we're following up, to make sure we're doing what we said we're going to do, that's a problem. And you'll see that I say you should find a best buddy. Well, guess what? My best buddy is here, sitting right here. I pat him on the back. My soulmate is here. He's my accountability partner. He's sending me signs telling me, hey, keep it going, because the time is going. So you want that. You got to have your accountability partner, and you got to make sure that you're monitoring frequently the things that you say you're going to do, so that you can get those things done. So I'm going to suggest that you want to look around and find yourself a best buddy, somebody that can be your accountability partner, so that you can stay on track and can really find your soulmate now. Well, let's take a look at the last step, and it is all about celebrating milestones. We don't celebrate enough, and celebration encourages us to keep going, to make it happen. And so we want to celebrate over time. And here's some examples of what I did. I put this all together, right? But look, there I am. That's me. That's me with Clayton. That's our first date. And don't we look like we're a hot couple already? Well, I took that picture and I sent it to him. And I said, hey, this is just wanted you to see, again, planting the seed in his head that, look at us. Don't we look good together? At the end of a year, I had collected all kinds of things that we had done, and I put it together into a scrapbook that we could go back and we could look at and reflect and see and celebrate the things that we had done together over that time. Again, reinforcing we're having a good time together. We're doing some really neat things. We really belong together, right? Well, that's step 8. So I want you to think about, too, celebrating along the way. Those are the 8 steps. And I wanted to end with this last question was it worth the time and the effort? And, my mom also used to always tell me anything that's worth having is worth working for. And my answer is yes. I found unconditional love. And that was what I was looking for. And so all that I did to get there was absolutely, unquestionably, without a doubt, all worth it. So I want to conclude with something. This is a book. I found it in the card shop. I love Hallmark. It's called Between You and Me. It's love letters for the one I love. And you can see on the left that this is something that I gave to Clayton for Christmas. I didn't know I was going to be doing this when I bought this book for him, but as I was putting this together and I wanted to talk about the benefits, I thought I pulled this back out to look at something that was in the book. So I want you to hear this with me because I think it really reflects the bottom line here. It said, I remember when we fell in love. When I met you, I had no idea how much my life was about to be changed. But then, how could I have known? A love like ours happens once in a lifetime. You were a miracle to me, the one who was everything I had ever dreamed of, the one I thought existed only in my imagination. And when you came into my life, I realized that what I'd always thought was happiness couldn't compare to the joy loving you brought me. You are a part of everything I think and do and feel. There's nobody I'd rather spend time with than you. Nobody I trust more than you. Nobody who makes me laugh as easily or as often as you do. And with you by my side, I believe that anything is possible. Thank you for the miracle of love. You are and always will be the love of my life. And so that is how I feel. And that is why I wanted to share this with you. And I hope that you too will find love and your soulmate. Now, I'm wrapping up. If you've got some questions that you want to ask, feel free to jot those in. I do want us to know that finding our soulmate, it's not magical. It's really about making wise choices. And it's about trusting. It's about trusting God. It's about trusting the process. It's about trusting others. That's what it takes in order for you to really find your soulmate. It's up to you. It's up to you. And I hope that you will decide to do all that it takes in order for you to find the soulmate for you. Is this book like a journal? Someone asked me. No, it really isn't. It's really just it really is a love. It's got a lot of different things for him, different messages to him. Yeah. If you have other questions, feel free to put them in, send them in. I do have some gifts of love that I want to tell you about. The first one is that I'm going to be sending everyone my avatar. You get a chance to get exactly all the things that I asked, look for, in all those categories and my basic 10 so that you have somewhere to start. You can modify it to make it yours, but, you can. I also have for the first 4 people who send me a message and say you would like to have me do a 30-minute free coaching session, you will get a free session. So the first 4 people that message me in and say that you want me to coach you, we can set up a time and you get the free session. I see one person already has said yes, they want the free session. Okay, I just need 4 people. I see my second one that wants a free session. My hubby's taking down the names. So there are 2 more sessions. And so if you want a free session, then you can just let me know, and we will be happy to talk with you and help you move on to the next level. I also want to suggest that you start your book collection, that you start getting some books that you can read that will help you. I want to recommend my 2 books. One is my first book was Be Your Best. So this one is all about you and the things you can do. My second one is Best Fast Stories. And this one is all about those areas that influence us, that impact how fast we move. So would love for you to check those out. And other books, they're on Amazon, so you can go out there and check those out. If you didn't join the Best Life community, I'm going to ask you to join it. It's a community where I'm sharing different things in the community, inspirational messages, assessments, announcing events, and all kinds of different things. So if you're in the community, for any of my products that you end up buying, there's a 10% discount because you are a member of the Best Life community. So if you didn't join, then come back to this and make sure that you do. Remember, you're going to get this replay, so you'll have the link when you get that. I also want to make you aware of the fact that I can become your accountability partner. I offer this as a product for 30 days. When you're in the Best Life community, you'll see my picture, and underneath it'll say buy. And so when you hit the buy button, there are different products that I have available, and you can sort of look at those products, read about them, and see whether or not it's something you're interested in. This accountability partner is a daily relationship that we have that starts really virtually, and we have a free session together, and then we are back and forth sending things on a daily basis, but you can get all the details of that when you go into the Best Life community. So what can I say but thank you. Thank you for joining today, and I look forward to hearing from you. I am hoping I'm going to hear your story, and that you too will have much to share about your soulmate. Have a great day, and I look forward to us staying in touch. I have lots of things that you'll hear about that will be coming forth soon that I hope you will participate in as well. Have a good one.